So how does a country teetering on the edge of total economic collapse end up creating a brand that, well, completely changes an entire industry? It sounds impossible, right? Well, today we're going to unpack the amazing story of Tanishq. It's a brand that was literally born out of a national crisis and went on to build this massive empire, all on one simple, powerful idea: trust.
All right, let's go back in time. Picture this. It's June of 1991. The entire country of India has just enough foreign money left to pay for essential imports for only 3 weeks. I mean, think about that. Just 3 weeks. After that, nobody knew. We're talking about a full-blown, lights-out economic emergency.
So, what does that actually mean, having no foreign currency? Well, we're talking about something called Forex, or foreign exchange. Think of it like a country's emergency savings account, but it's filled with US dollars and other major currencies. You need this stuff to buy critical things from other countries, like oil to keep the lights on. So when that account runs dry, the entire economy just grinds to a halt. This wasn't just a small problem, it was a massive crisis for the government and for pretty much every single business in India.
Okay, and that crisis is what kicks off part 1 of our story. A crisis creates opportunity. They say necessity is the mother of invention, right? Well, in moments of pure desperation like this, innovation isn't just some nice to have, it's literally the only way to survive.
So the government's response? It was swift, and it was brutal. They basically told all the businesses in the country, listen up, don't even think about asking us for dollars. We need every single cent to buy oil. If your business needs to import something, you're on your own. You have to go out and earn those dollars yourself by exporting. Now, you can imagine, this was a massive shock to the system, especially for a company like Titan. At the time, they were this huge, successful watchmaker, and their entire business relied on importing parts.
And that leads us right into part 2. Titan was backed into a corner. They absolutely had to find a new business, anything that could earn those precious dollars. And their search led them somewhere unexpected, to an industry that was just massive, super traditional, and funnily enough, hiding in plain sight.
So this is where Titan had their big aha moment. Their team dug in and made 3 really key observations about the Indian jewelry market. First off, the passion for it was just off the charts. For families, buying gold jewelry wasn't just a purchase, it was a core investment. Second, they saw a huge quality gap. A lot of the designs were kind of stale, and even worse, you could never, ever be 100% sure that the gold you were buying was actually pure. And the third point, the real kicker, they realized that local jewelers were making absolutely massive profits by, mixing cheaper metals into the gold.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem they decided to solve. You had a market that was totally driven by passion and tradition, but just underneath all that emotion, there was this constant feeling of doubt. People were spending their life savings on this stuff, but they had absolutely no way to know for sure if they were getting what they paid for. Okay, this is where the entire story just takes a huge turn. Let's jump into part 3, the trust revolution. See, Titan figured out that their new business, which they were going to call Tanishq, couldn't just be about selling pretty jewelry. No, they had to sell something way more important, something much more valuable: absolute, provable trust. But think about that for a second. How on earth do you even start to do that? The entire jewelry industry was built on these deep personal relationships. For generations, you went to your family jeweler, right? A person you knew, your parents knew. It was a system built on what you could call blind trust. So how could some big faceless company ever hope to break into that circle of trust?
Well, they did it by completely flipping the script on what trust even means. They took the old way, which was all about blind faith and questionable purity, and they replaced it with something new. They shifted the entire market from trusting a person to trusting a process backed by science. From zero verification to absolute, undeniable proof. But, okay, how do you actually deliver that proof?
Enter the hero of our story, this incredible machine called the carat meter. And look, this wasn't just some new gadget. It was Tanishq's secret weapon. It was a high-tech spectrometer that could give you an exact scientific reading of your gold's purity. And it did it right there, in the store, in minutes, right in front of you. This was, and I mean this, an absolute game changer.
And that is the absolute key. Tanishq wasn't just selling jewelry anymore. They were selling proof. Suddenly, gold purity wasn't a matter of opinion. It wasn't some vague promise from a guy you've known for years. It was a hard, cold, scientific fact. And with that one machine,
the entire power dynamic of the Indian jewelry industry was changed forever.
So, okay, they've built this incredible foundation of trust. The question is, how do they take that one brilliant idea and scale it up into a nationwide empire? Well, that's what we're diving into in part 4.
I mean, just look at these numbers. The growth was absolutely explosive. In 2016, they had 193 stores. By 2023, that number jumped to 423. They more than doubled their number of stores in just 7 years. That's not just growth, you guys, that's a nationwide takeover. And it was all built one trusted purchase at a time.
But they didn't just stop at opening more stores. Oh no, they got even smarter. They built a whole house of brands so they could appeal to everyone. You've got the main Tanishq brand for that premium, classic jewelry. Then, for the super high-end designer stuff, there's Zoya. And then, and this was brilliant, they launched Mia, which is perfect for modern, working women who want something more minimalist and everyday. It is truly a masterclass in understanding your customer.
And this is where the story comes completely full circle. Remember how this whole thing started with that desperate scramble for foreign currency? Well, here we are. Tanishq is now expanding internationally, opening stores in the US and other places. And they're not just selling jewelry there. They're selling a connection back home for the Indian diaspora. And in doing so, they are finally earning those dollars that forced them into existence in the first place. How incredible is that?
So, after all that, what can we learn from this amazing story of turning a crisis into a massive success? Well, that brings us to our final part, the Tanishq playbook.
Let's break it down into 3 huge lessons. Number 1, research is queen. Seriously, don't assume you know what your customers want. Tanishq went out and actually talked to people to understand their real hopes and fears. Number 2, sell the problem before you sell the solution. This is so key. Tanishq had to first make people realize that impure gold was a huge problem before they could ever sell them on the idea of guaranteed purity. And finally, number 3, empathy is your superpower. By constantly listening and understanding how their customers' lives were changing, they were able to create amazing new brands like Mia and Zoya. It's all about listening.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Tanishq's genius was finding a problem that everyone was feeling, but nobody could quite put their finger on, and then they gave them the perfect tool to fix it. So, the question I'll leave you with is this. What's the unseen problem in your world that's just waiting for its own carat meter?